All right then. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this 41st session of council for Loyalist Township on this Monday, January the 11th. Happy New Year to anyone who has not previously seen us to this point. As you'll note on the agenda, we were in closed session from approximately 5:30, and we're moving into the public meeting with regard to the interim development charges for 6 o'clock, and our regular open session will start at 7 o'clock this evening. I do note the absence of the regrets for a couple of our members of council. Councillors Porter and Parks are not able to join us this evening. And being Zoom, if any member of council is not able to maintain their internet connection, we will pause briefly to try to get them reestablished. But as long as we maintain quorum, we will continue on with the meeting even in their absence. So again, we welcome you all. We will recall this meeting to order for 6 o'clock. As noted, we have been in closed session and we met at 5:30. And I'm empowered to rise and report that during that closed session, we did approve the minutes of the closed session of November the 23rd. And in addition, council approved a recommendation that the report from the CAO dated January 11th regarding a gift and proposed purchase of Gowan property on Amherst Island be received, and that the township solicitor be directed to prepare the necessary legal documents to transfer ownership of the gifted property and 20 acres at $15,000 per acre from the Gowans to Loyalist Township, and that the mayor be authorized to make a public statement regarding this approval when reporting out during the regular session following this meeting, and that the clerk be directed to prepare the required bylaw to authorize the purchase and acceptance of gift. I'm extremely pleased to be reporting this. The donation of land from the Gowans is a wonderful thing for all of Loyalist Township and specifically for Amherst Island. Their generosity is greatly appreciated, and we will make very good use of that property, being waterfront and across the street for the property that we're purchasing. Again, it's noted that the bylaw to do the final approval for that will be coming forward at a future council meeting, and I would invite council to make comments at that time. So that's from closed. We have no open forum tonight. We do have an agenda before us. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. My apologies. We move on to the public meeting. Council shall hear comments regarding the proposed interim development charges bylaw and background study in accordance with section 10 and 12 of the Development Charges Act 1997. I believe we have representatives from our consultants here to make a presentation to council and to any members of the public that wish, and we will hear any public comments that come forward at that time. And Mr. Mirabel, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thanks very much. I will share my screen. I have a brief presentation and we'll go through that. And can everyone see the screen? Great. Okay, thank you. So my name is Andrew Mirabella. I'm a senior consultant at Hempson. Courtney King, my colleague, is with me online as well. The purpose of today's meeting is the statutory public meeting for the interim development charges study and background study, with the intention that Township Council pass a bylaw at a subsequent council meeting on January 25th of 2021. So just to go over some of the agendas, what we're going to talk about today, we'll go over the interim development charge study, why we're undertaking an interim study, and what this means in the overall grand scheme of the public process, as well as the overall development charges for the township. We'll have a brief overview of the capital program, what we're looking at in terms of the proposed interim rates, and really what the next steps are. That's very important because we are on the path here of preparing a more fulsome background study for the township to prepare to pass a new development charges as well, subsequent to this interim study, which we'll get into in the next couple of slides. So just in terms of general speaking, when we talk about interim, what are we actually talking about here? So generally speaking, in terms of the timeline, prior to COVID-19 and when it kind of came in March of 2020, we were in the process with the township in preparing and completing a comprehensive review and update to your development charge rates, policies, and practices, which would be in advance of your June 2020 DC bylaw expiry. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, yourselves, like many municipalities across the province and really across the country and the world, really had to deploy a lot of your municipal resources to ensure that resident safety was of the utmost priority, which you have done, and you really wanted to ensure your essential services continued to be delivered. And with that said, given the size of your community, that DC study was effectively put on hold in order to manage that pandemic during that time period. As a result, the province of Ontario did recognize that municipalities were grappling with this, and legislation was passed, which included many bylaws, including the development charges, over a period. And that bylaw, which was set to expire in June, is now setting to expire in mid-January. And really, that's the purpose of today's meeting. We're in the process of reigniting that DC study and the comprehensive study, but we want to make sure that your bylaw, as it stands right now, continues to be enforced at the rates that are currently held. So we want to ensure that a new bylaw is passed and you can continue to collect development charges. And while that does happen, we want to kind of continue to extend those rates so that a more fulsome study is completed. This DC study, interim-wise, considers your services related to a highway, roads and public works, emergency services, and stormwater. Behind the scenes, in addition to the COVID-19 legislation, there was a lot of other municipal legislation surrounding the Development Charges Act and the Planning Act, which actually extends your soft service components of your study of parks and recreation and general government. So those services are already extended under a separate piece of legislation over the next year, year and a half. So those services aren't considered in this interim study, which is why you might not see that in the bylaw. So there are two distinct components, but this bylaw is just regarding the hard services, which are going to expire in January after the provincial legislation extension is removed. So when we do a development charge background study and a DC bylaw, there's several key steps that could be undertaken. What we've done is we released the DC background study, the interim study, 60 days prior to the passage of the bylaw. It was posted on the website. Proper notice was given in by way of this public meeting. We've put all the information out towards the public domain, both the bylaw, the study, and the notice requirements on the website, and hard copies of the study were also made available. The statutory public meeting is being held today. We're obviously looking for any comments in regards to that study with the intention that a DC bylaw is passed subsequent meeting. And then there's some notice requirements which need to be fulfilled following the passage of the bylaw. And those are more clerical type duties after the passage of the bylaw. So in terms of the capital program, so we have started to develop capital programs with staff and for the purposes of this DC study. A lot of these capital projects, again, identified for the purpose of this study, but also will be carried forward and developed with the more fulsome DC study, which will come forward sometime in 2021 after this date. But we still had to go through the proper legislative framework, and all capital costs are adjusted in accordance with the legislation. So from what the information that we had, we still had to go through the robust exercise of identifying any grants, subsidies, replacement and benefit to existing shares, any DC reserve funds, and any shares that benefit projects beyond the planning period. What we've come up with is a gross capital program of about $13.4 million, again, only related to the services that are being considered, excluding parks and recreation. And the DC recoverable share of that program is about $6.7 million. So of the 13.4, about half of that is actually DC eligible, which can be recovered from the development charge capital costs and development charge rates going forward. Again, just noting that those capital programs in terms of the gross project cost, as well as the recoverable share, both of which will be continued to reviewed and refined in the forthcoming DC study that you'll see in a more fulsome state in mid-2021. So in terms of what we're seeing here, in terms of the calculated rates and what we're proposing, when we do our preliminary analysis in terms of the calculated rates, we are seeing more significant upward pressure in the rates relative to what's currently being enforced. So upward of 30% for single family detached units and upwards of 80% for non-residential development. As I mentioned, parks and recreation and general government DCs will continue to be enforced under your existing bylaw and not considered in that calculation that I've identified above. But because this is an interim study and we're doing the more fulsome study update, what we're saying is just to reasonably implement the current DC rates right now until the more kind of fulsome study and review is complete. So your current rates that are currently enforced as January 1, 2021 will continue at those rates, and we're not going to implement the calculated rates as we've identified right now through our preliminary analysis. So it's at least justifiable to continue staying the course of what we currently have. And when the more fulsome review is done, we'll go through a more, again, a kind of a formal public process and go through a public meeting and pass a new bylaw at that time. So just to refresh you on what the current rates and what's identified in the background study. So this is the township-wide residential development charge rates broken out by service category. And the residential rates range by dwelling unit type, $5,700 for a single and semi-detached unit. Multiples are just over $5,000 and apartments at $4,000. What I will note is that this represents all the service categories that the township development charges for, with the exclusion of your imposed fees for water and wastewater services. This is all your township-wide DCs, including general government and parks and recreation, which we have a star beside. Those are going to be not included in your bylaw, but we did want to just paint the picture of what your current DC rates are in totality. Obviously, the ones that are just under the study are less than the $5,700. It's around $4,000, but we did want to show the total picture just so we're being fully transparent on what the fully DC is. That's going to be what an end user would pay when they come in for a building permit. So that's residentially. Non-residentially, your rates are differentiated between the industrial and non-industrial. Industrial rates are $21.22 a square meter, and your non-industrial rates are $30.98 a square meter. Again, recreation and general government are included in the table for disclosure, and your bylaw wouldn't reflect at this time those particular rates will continue to be levied when someone were to come in with a building permit. Though, again, these are the current rates that are enforced and not what could be calculated if we were to implement them based on the preliminary analysis that we have done. So just in terms of some of the DC policies and next steps, just reiterating a lot of the comments here, the interim DC bylaw applies to all development that's going to be occurring. Policies that are identified in your current bylaw remain unchanged. And this bylaw, again, only includes the hard services. General services continues to be enforced. And with that said, a more fulsome DC bylaw update is underway and will be completed shortly. And you'll be seeing that from us in the next several months once staff gets back full speed to DC study program and project. And we'll be coming back with you with draft rates and then a public meeting and then the adoption of a bylaw at a subsequent meeting. Immediately, what's being asked for is on January 25th, 2021, an interim DC bylaw will be passed. And that bylaw will be in force until the new bylaw is passed. And that would be inclusive of the rates that are in force as of January 1, 2021. And again, once that is passed, we'll be coming back with Q2 and Q3 2021 with more information on proposed development charges in the Township of Loyalist. So that's really at a high level caps what the interim study is. With the short story being not much is changing, but we wanted to give you the full rundown of everything that's occurred and why we're doing the study at this time. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mirabella. Council, do we have any questions for the presenter at this time? And I will ask if you can stop sharing the screen so that we can see the other members of council.
Yeah,
thank you.
There we go.
And council, any questions at this time? Seeing none, do we have any audience members who wish to participate and might have questions?
There's no one in your worship other than Dave Thompson.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no questions, we understand that we are simply continuing the current development charges regime until such time as the consultants can do a fulsome deep dive into it. We do have a recommendation before us with regard to this presentation. Okay. Council?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion, I believe. Yes. Okay. Councillor Townend? So moved. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy, thank you. And Councillor Townend, any comments?
No, sir.
And Deputy? Anyone else? Seeing none, I would like to thank Mr. Mirabella and most specifically our staff. It was very stressful to have to do the about face at the beginning of the year with this COVID, and I'm very pleased that they're now working to get back to the work that we plan to do over 2020. So this certainly makes sense. With that, we have a mover and seconder. Back to the mover for final comment if you would like. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. With that, we have concluded the development charges public meeting. And we are scheduled for our regular council meeting to begin at 7 o'clock. And so I would ask everyone to, do I need a motion to recess to the clerk? And can I get a motion to recess until 7 o'clock? Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Gordon. And call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are recessed until 7 o'clock in this Zoom session. So we will, council, I will recommend that we simply turn off our mics and video, and we'll come back and see you at 7. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to council for this 41st session of council on January the 11th, 2021. Happy New Year to everyone that's in attendance. And I would report that we have been in closed session and had a public meeting with regard to the interim development charges bylaw at 5:30 and 6 o'clock. At the time of starting the development charges section of the meeting, as we were in public session, we did a rise and report, but as there were not many attendees at that time, I will repeat that rise and report from our closed session. During closed session, we approved the minutes of the November the 23rd closed session report, as well as council provided direction to approve the recommendation that a report from the CAO dated January the 11th, 2021 regarding a gift and proposed purchase of Gowan property on Amherst Island be received, and that the township solicitor be directed to prepare the necessary legal documents to transfer ownership of the gifted property and the 20 acres at approximately $15,000 per acre from the Gowans to Loyalist Township, and that the mayor be authorized to make a public statement regarding this approval when reporting out during the regular session following the meeting, and that the clerk be directed to prepare a bylaw to authorize the purchase and the acceptance of that gift. And those motions were approved and closed. And it is my great honor and great privilege to announce to the audience that we are very appreciative of the Gowan family and their wonderful donation of waterfront property in the village of Stella, as well as the arrangements for the purchase of the property across the street from it. These will be great additions to the municipality and allow us to move forward with some new services and amenities for the village of Stella and for all of Loyalist Township. So we are very appreciative of the Gowan family's contribution. Moving forward, we then had the public meeting with regard to the Development Charges Act and received that report. We will be looking to a bylaw for the interim development charges on January the 25th. And so we come to the open forum section of the meeting. To the clerk, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward under an ad hoc presentation? And
I
seeing
don't see
none,
anyone, your worship.
thank you very much. Then we'll move to the confirmation of the agenda for January the 11th. And are there any edits to the agenda from staff?
Not that we're aware of.
And anything from council? And then I will look for a motion to approve the agenda for this meeting. Councillor Townend, seconded by the deputy mayor. And call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Next up on the agenda is the minutes from previous meetings. We have 3 of them. So I'd look for confirmation of the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting, December the 7th. Can I get a motion, or are there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Councillor Budrich, seconded by Councillor Gordon. Right, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7.2, the confirmations of the minutes of the 40th session of regular council on December the 14th. Again, we have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Budrich. Thank you. Okay, any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And confirmation of the minutes of the special council meeting December the 15th. Again, we have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Councillor Townend, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gordon. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to item number 8, which is delegations and presentations. I understand that Mr. Field from the Odessa Agricultural Society is wishing to make a presentation. And Ms. Chapman, is he in the audience? Oh, there he is. Peter, are you
Mr.
with
Mayor,
us?
can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Peter Field, and I'm here to represent the Odessa Agricultural Society. I would like to ask council if they would consider when they replace their lawnmowers with Parks and Recreation, if the Agricultural Society might be able to get one. As a society this year with the COVID, we have really fallen on hard times, trying to keep things going. We tried to keep the grounds nice. We have 2 mowers at the present time, and we cut about 4 acres of grass. I think maybe once or twice this year, both mowers are running at the same time. If it wasn't for Fair Board supporters getting us parts and sometimes even helping us fix them, I don't know what we would have done. We'd have been cutting with one or not cutting the grass at all. Council or township and the Fair Board have worked together before on different projects. We have a lot of community projects that help out. So just trying to think off my head here, sorry. The Halloween party, the Christmas tree burn. We have events ourselves that we hold to try and raise money. And with COVID, we haven't been able to do a thing. And it doesn't look like we're going to be doing much the first part of this year. So I was just wondering if it would be possible, if they were replacing one of the mowers, if we could be in consideration to get it.
Thank you, Mr. Field. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Field at this time? Seeing none, I will say, Mr. Field, first of all, I certainly acknowledge and support your statement that the Odessa Ag Society has been a wonderful partner for the township for many, many years, long before I was involved in the township, certainly, and it's greatly appreciated. And your organization adds to the community in very many ways, including the events that you spoke of specifically. It's also, I got a message from my CAO. Fortunately, we're not looking at replacing any of our lawnmowers this year. We are likely looking at it for the following year. So I'm not sure if that will help out. And we will have to refer to staff to make sure that we're following procurement and disposal procedures properly. But I certainly hope that we can find a way to work with the Ag Society on such things.
I thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anything else for Mr. Field? Seeing none, can I get a motion to receive that presentation, please? And Councillor Townend, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments? I'll go to the deputy.
Thank you. I know we're just receiving it, but I'd also like us to keep it in mind with future budgets. If we aren't disposing of any mowers this year, then when we are disposing of them, to have this in mind, because like Peter said, they haven't been able to have any income for almost a year now. They don't know when they will have any. So whether it's this year or next year, the need is still, I'm assuming, going to be the same or greater as the wear on the equipment. With more time, more wear is going to happen. And they are a great community partner and very important to the community. So this is another one of those areas that I see partnering going both ways.
Very much agreed. Thank you. Do we need to, or are you suggesting modifying the motion in any way?
I would make a friendly amendment to that. Just that the request go forward to future budget when we are looking at disposing of equipment. Such equipment, yes. Thank you.
And would the mover consider that a friendly amendment? I thought so. Thank you. Right. So with the modified motion, are there any further comment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Field, and we'll figure out what we can do from here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Moving forward, I'm assuming there are no other delegations or presentations. There's none on my list. Going through the agenda, we move to item 14.1. With regard to the Fairfield Water Treatment Plant GAC replacement and pre-budget approval. We have a report before us, and we have the director, Ms. Merritt, here. Ms. Merritt, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
No, nothing to add, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, did we have any questions with regard to the report? So the department is seeking pre-budget approval to move ahead with those replacements. And can I get a motion? Councillor Buderick, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Townend. Right, any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Director. We move to, I guess, the consent agenda. Oh, sorry, notices of motions or direct motion. Are there any notices of motion or direct motions this evening from council? None? Okay. Then we move on to the consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included in our consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any member of council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Is there anything that any member of council wishes to separate from the consent agenda this evening? No? Okay, then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? And I'll go with the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Townend. Right, any comments? None? Right, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And none opposed? Motion is carried. We move to agenda. There are no items extracted. We move to members' privilege. Is there anything under member deputy? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a thank you, I guess, to the local Lions clubs. I was a little more involved in the Odessa one, but I know that the Amherstview and the Bath one did the same thing at Christmas with food baskets or the equivalent of food baskets going to people in need. The need was great in the community this year, and they stepped up and carried it out with all the changes or protocols, everything that was needed. It was actually a fair bit of work to be able to meet all the requirements, but they did the investigation, they followed them all, fulfilled everything, and still pulled it off and did an excellent job, I think. And it was just, I know in the Odessa one, there was about 100, I believe it was, food baskets that went out. Amherstview and Bath, I think Amherstview might have been a little more, and Bath was right in close to the area, the equivalent of food baskets. So that's a huge, huge asset to the municipality and the residents of the municipality. And I just wanted to make note of it. It's another one of the community groups that we have partnered with in the past. We've done it very successfully, and they have been a great asset to the municipality and the residents in it. So I just wanted to make sure that it was noted.
Thank you very much, and I certainly concur with that statement of appreciation. All the clubs have done well. I also like to highlight there's a great many community members and service clubs that are providing assistance across the board these days, as well as we've done in curbing the onslaught of COVID. I think we've done even better in supporting each other and supporting our neighbors throughout this. And so my appreciation goes out specifically to the Lions Club, but also to all the members of our communities. They've done a great job. It shows how caring a community this really is. Is there anything else under members' privilege? Seeing none, We go to upcoming meeting dates. January 25th, we are scheduled for a special meeting of council ahead of our committee of the whole budget meeting. That special meeting of council will be to deal with the interim development charges, as we spoke of earlier today. And then the 25th, 28th, and 1st of February, we will be having committee of the whole meetings with regard to the budget. And the February 1st committee of the whole budget meeting will follow the committee of adjustment meeting, also scheduled for that date on February 1st at 6 p.m. Are there any other meetings to make note of? None? Okay. Then we move to the confirmatory bylaw. And we have a bylaw before us to confirm the proceedings of tonight. Can I get a motion, please? We'll go with the deputy and Councillor Townend. Okay. Any comments? And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. That's a quick meeting tonight, but and some days that's a good thing. So can I have a motion for adjournment? Councillor Gordon, second by Councillor Buderick. Okay. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned, folks. Thank you very much. And once again, I'll say Happy New Year to all of you. Have a good evening.